Welcome back, everyone. This week, as we dive into part one of Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots. This is Christian's book club game, so I'll do what I always do and pass it over.
All right, so first thing I'm going to do is shout out to a actual hero. So when I was making for the notes for this game, obviously this game is very cutscene heavy, as we have even seen in this first part here, and I was like going through it, and I made it about I don't know maybe 30 minutes in, and I was just like, God, this is gonna be so long for me to write all this shit down, because just like with Snake Eater, I'm pretty descriptive about what happens in the cutscenes because that's kind of the point. And I was like, fuck, dude, there's so much talk, like I'm gonna have to write all this down. And it was gonna be a pain. And then I came across, I was like, somebody must have done this work somewhere. And some person, I think this is technically like against copyright laws, so I don't want to say what this say this person's name, but I just want to say you know who you are because you're the only person who's done this, and I found it, and so shout out to you, this person. Um, he went through and got the entirety line by line, including gameplay sections, and got the entire script for the game uh,
Damn.
and has uploaded it. And I just, like I said, want to say, um, shout out to you. He's done it for. I didn't. I wish I would have had this previously because it'd have been great. But he's done it for Snake Eater. He's done it for this game, and he's done it for Ground Zeroes. Um, he has said that he plans on trying to do the other games at some point, but obviously there's no actual reason for doing this. He's just doing it strictly for the love of the game. So shout out to you. But yeah, so we'll go from there. So uh, this game opens with as soon as the game gets done installing on your PlayStation 3 hardware, um, which is what I played it on for this one, for this part. Um, and you are first given a little scene of Snake just smoking a cigarette while the loading bar goes through. And you get all sorts of little tips from Kojima and friends about the safest way to enjoy your video games, and also to not smoke because smoking's bad, so don't do it.
This was so weird. The first time I didn't see it, the second time I had to install it, go through it, I did see it, and there were some weird ones of how to properly install the game on the
Mm-hmm.
PlayStation. There was the don't smoke thing. There was the take break every few minutes, like every so long, right? Don't sit there too long and play. But there were some others, and I was just like, this is just a weird thing. Just, just in general, a weird thing.
I mean, the how to install it, I think, makes sense because that was not a thing that ever had to be done before that moment in
Mm-hmm.
time. For people who played on consoles, like you just stuck the game in or stuck the cartridge in, and then
Yeah.
it was it. It played. The PlayStation 3 was the first time where you would go out, especially like at midnight launches or whatever, buy a disc, put it in, and then the game would go. All right, so you ready to install for the next 3 hours so that you can't actually play the game, which was a blast. So there's that one. But yeah, some of the other ones are yeah, they're really weird and goofy. But um, yeah, so you get through that, and then you open to one of I think five different sort of TV shows that Kojima has created for the openings of this game. And like I said before last week, um, number one, this is not my favorite Metal Gear. We already played that. Well, we'll see. We're gonna play
Ooh.
that one next, I guess. But um, of the main, I guess, games or whatever, we've already played that one. But I said that I will not even be able to promise that anybody will particularly love this game, but I will be able to promise that you will have never played a game like this before. And I think that it immediately delivers on that promise by having, like I said, I think it's like five or six, I can't remember, but I'll try to go through the ones that I remember now, which is these little TV shows that Kojima's created. One is a cooking show, um,
Hated this,
and
by
I,
the way.
huh?
I hated this one, by the way.
I believe
it's
yes.
unsettling. It really
This one
is.
is this like it's like done in the way of like a QVC sort of show where this like host is like, you know, being like, act now and you can buy these crazy meals that we're making, like all this other stuff where this chef is basically chopping up and cooking things. I believe they are all made or think are different things that Snake can eat in Metal Gear Solid 3. So there's like the crocodile head, there's all these different bugs, a snake, like, you know, all those other things.
He rips the
Um,
crocodile head back like from the mouth, like
he
the
does. He just kind
skin.
of like,
It's
yeah,
just,
yeah. He just yanks it right off. It's very weird.
I hated it.
Um, there is a one that is a talk show sort of like late night talk show thing where a person is interviewing David Hayter and he has an eye patch on. Obviously, him being the voice of both Big Boss and Snake. So doing a little nod to that there. Um, and then there's the like this like sort of commercial. It looks like a trailer for like a movie almost, but it's like a like this like black and white sort of robed ninjas that are like fighting sort of like slow mo like sort of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style kind of fighting. And it's supposed to be, to my knowledge, it's supposed to be like a yin and yang, sort of like solid and liquid, like them fighting. So that whole struggle. There is one like a National Geographic documentary about an octopus and how it camouflages to an environment, which is a nod to the new camouflage system that we'll be
Is
talking
that
about here shortly
is
in the
that
game.
the sexy tentacle girl one, where the girls are just like floating around the octopus
No,
tentacles?
that's a different one.
That's slow
Okay.
motion sexy lady channel. I know that one.
It's very
Yeah.
weird. It was I recorded that one and sent to Christian. It was just like
Sent to Christian, huh?
fuck? What the fuck? It's literally like what it was.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
That one, I think, if it goes, I think that one is like something about the praying mantis war group or whatever, which is the
it's
PMC
like a
group
big
that's
advertisement.
here.
It's just slow motion sexy ladies doing different things. One of them has the octopus. One of them is just them like in the desert with like flowing clothing and stuff like that. They're holding like SMGs at each other or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the praying mantis core or whatever is the PMC group that is in Metal Gear Solid 4 here. And once, you know, the time runs out for those and the loading is done because it's just a giant hidden loading screen, we get the intro cutscene.
Before we get the intro cutscene, can I just I'm still stuck on the TV shows. Like I know you keep saying like I need to know why. And I know your answer is like, oh, because it's hiding this loading screen. And I'm like, but does it tie to the game? And you're like, well, not beyond the fact like it gives little hints, right? It's little Easter eggs like David Hayter with the
I mean, all of them are references to something in the
Right.
series, yeah.
Right. Like I get it, but why though? Like I just don't get it. It's the first thing it's like before the start menu and everything. Like what you get before you press like
You want
let's
to
play
know what
this
my
game.
guess is? My
So
guess is that
weird.
this is the first time Hideo gets to do live action shit. So he actually gets to do more of a Hollywood-esque. Like I'm gonna do a QVC
Oh, I mean, dude,
show. I'm gonna
don't
do like
forget-
slow motion commercials. I'm gonna do National Geographic.
We're not even talking, but before you get to the start screen, like this is again like PS3 was really trying to push at the time about what a high quality console it was, and they were really wanting to convince people that it was definitely totally fine to spend $600 on this console, which is like $1,000 today basically. And it even like it opens with all the different, you know, like Dolby app, like the Dolby audio
does.
thing and the THX fucking
does.
visual stuff. Like they're trying to do all these things. So Preston, to your point, there's definitely some aspect there of like, I'm positive that Sony probably looked at Konami and was like, you give that man a blank, let him do whatever the fuck he wants because we need something to differentiate ourselves to the point where somebody would want to go out and buy a PlayStation. The other thing there, though, Alex, is when you're like, why? This is so weird, and why would somebody do this? You have played Death Stranding 1. You
Yeah.
know why. That is a game in which you are running around, and when you get scared, you have to pick up a baby and rock it back and forth to go back to sleep so that it can continue to protect you from ghosts. In that context, TV channels aren't that weird.
No,
It's not.
it's not. But like, even before the game, like at least that stuff is gameplay. Like this is
I mean,
before
if
you.
you are using gameplay so loosely there, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, I guess
He's a freak.
he is the closest thing we've ever seen to just a gaming Artur. I will
Gaming genius kind of deal. Yeah.
Nope, I won't go that
No,
far.
don't
I'm
call
just
genius.
saying an Artur.
Look, I've said this. I said this at the beginning before we started playing Metal Gear Solid 1. There is never a person on this planet who has created anything, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, or video games, that has straddled the line between truly like visionary level stuff and complete hack shit. And it's, you hate it or love it, it is extremely impressive that somebody is able to straddle the line like he has his entire life. And I mean, there it is. Yeah.
Okay.
He is true. He is. The reason that we get games like this is because he is the closest thing. I mean, not he is probably one of the few gaming like Alex, the Arturs in our space, and that's why people, including myself, will continue to show up and be like, "All right, let's see what this next one is," and then what do you got, man? Yeah. But yeah, so we get to that. We get to the intro scene here, and we open with a black screen, and it is a little text blurb that says, "In the not too distant future, on a tired battlefield, war has become routine." And we start seeing there's like we open up to like a sort of broken down deserty area. Definitely very easy to assume that we're in the Middle East. As we see some trucks come down the road, we hear a familiar voice, and that is Mr. David Hayter, one Solid Snake, who says, "War has changed. It is no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It is an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life have become a well-oiled machine." Man, certainly not something that we have today. Am I right, guys? Mm-hmm. Anyways, but we start getting a scene. So it's coming down the truck, and it's like these like 4 or 5 like trucks that are coming down the road, and they're like filled to the brim basically with soldiers. And we hear some more from Snake here, who's like, he says war has changed again, and then he's like, ID tagged soldiers carry ID tagged weapons, use ID tagged gear. Nanomachines inside their bodies enhance and regulate their abilities, genetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. And then as the trucks are getting closer to like an active sort of battlefield, we hear like fire in the distance, explosions, all this other stuff. And people start exiting the trucks along with Snake. He's getting out. Well, we don't know it's Snake just yet, but a man who looks an awful lot like Snake, sort of in like a cloth sort of cover, and he's getting out. A few people get shot just immediately from getting right off the truck. Snake says war has changed again, and then he's like, the age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction, and he who controls the battlefield controls history. And at this point, there's like many soldiers that get mowed down. One is a truck is sort of coming, getting closer, and we get the point of view of one of the opposing faction, who snipes the driver, and the truck immediately crashes next to Snake. And he repeats the same line where he says, "War has changed. When the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine." And we exit the truck here, and this is where sort of the HUD comes in, and we get the familiar Metal Gear sort of HUD that we get here, where it is the right and left sort of menu buttons that we like to see, and then at the top left is the health bar, but instead of saying Solid Snake, it says Old Snake now.
Aesthetically, from the font that they choose for this game to the HUD, this is my least favorite of all 4 games so far. And just like like I know
Of
that
like of the opening, you mean?
everything like from the opening, like the font that he chooses with the very
It's
swoopy,
very
like
calligraphy esque.
yeah,
That's what's
that but also
Oh.
the HUD itself, right? Like the pause menu
I
and
don't like
everything,
the
just with like
yellow.
the color, the yellow and the
The big fan of
futuristic.
yellow.
It is my least favorite of visually of the HUDs out of all 4 games so
UI.
far.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know if you can. I think there's like a menu. I think you can change the color of the menu. I don't know.
Okay. New.
I can't
Yeah.
remember. I don't mind the calligraphy font. I think
Yeah,
I
calligraphy font's
think it's
fine.
fine.
It was a weird change. Like I'm thinking like this is a choice for a font, but then I started seeing you go into the menus, you see like actual like calligraphy on there. Like oh okay, this is just them doing like if someone were to do this with a paintbrush kind of deal, like calligraphy pens or something like
I
that.
think I don't mind it, but I think the I'm blanking on his name now, and it pisses me off because I love. Do you remember the artist's name for this, Preston? We've talked about him before, so I didn't know if you remembered off the top
For
of your head.
The
Kojima
guy
The
that
games
does
and
character
Metal Gear
artist.
the
games.
cover art.
Yeah, for all of Kojima's games. Yeah,
I know it. I'll look it up real quick.
I know. You and I have talked about him before, and I'm blanking on him now.
No.
I think it's Shinkawa. Is it Shinkawa?
Artist. Yeah, Yoji Shinkawa.
Yeah. So all of his art is like that for all of these games. So it's like he does very like these sort of
We haven't really
like
seen his like
strokey
text though
flow.
very much, as far as that's concerned. We've seen his
No,
art,
but
like,
I'm just saying.
yeah,
Yeah, to me it sort of matches that, so it doesn't bother me that much.
no,
But
it's a little different.
yeah, but yeah, the yellow coloring on the brown and gray background is definitely. What's funny is that I think they must know that it was hard to see because what's on the right hand sides when you select something for your item versus your weapon, those will immediately turn red and blue like they always have. So those like stand out that way, but when you're selecting them, they will still have that like orange, like the yellow.
That's why I don't
hue.
like it. It's real hard to see. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you like I said, when you select those things, the background immediately turns red and blue, like it normally does, but like it has for all the other games. But yeah, it does. It is very samey. But there's other areas in this game, other locales, other places that we'll go.
Sure.
But yeah, so from there you can kind of run around this area and do what you want, and there's just sort of explosions and fighting that happens. And eventually you will crawl under a little truck over to the left. And another scene immediately happens from here where it's basically just more fighting. And you are sort of making your way, like you make your way over to the left side of this little battlefield, like sort of dodging all the fighting. And again, right here, Snake is like, he's like takes cover behind like a building, and then the HUD sort of fades in again, letting you know like you have control again. And from right here, as you start to run down the street, you get a little tutorial from a familiar voice that sounds a lot like Otacon, who basically just says like, "Hey, this is how you select your weapons and your items. Like, if you need help remembering how to do that by holding the shoulder buttons and yada 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 yada." So you walk down there, and we get hit with another cutscene, and the cutscene at the end here is so there's some more fighting. But then as sort of the fighting continues, some of the soldiers start to pull away. So the PMC group, the other group that's fighting here, they start to pull away. And all you start to hear is it gets louder and louder, but there's echoes of like cows and locusts, like all at the same time. And they get louder and louder and louder all the way up until you see in the distance like 4 or 5 sort of like robots like jump out of the air, and they start coming down towards where everybody's at, and they just straight up missed like 4 soldiers. They just explode into a red cloud, more or less. And everybody freaks out, starts shooting at them. Bullets are bouncing off the harder shells. And the way to describe these sort of robots is they basically have 2 legs, and the head of Metal Gear Rex is what it looks like. And that's basically they're like just little miniature versions of the head of Metal Gear Rex with like two crazy
What's
ass sort of legs.
what's the girl from Street Fighter with the thick legs that just goes kicky all the time?
Chun-Li?
Chun-Li.
She has the legs of Chun-Li and the head of Metal Gear Rex. Is
That's
literally
honestly not
what
that's not a bad way to describe it. Yeah. That is certainly not a bad way to describe it. Yeah. So, but they start appearing. They can shoot. They are stomping on people, kicking people through walls, all sorts of wild shit. And Snake is like, "Fuck this," and he just books it and starts leaving. And from there, we get a message from Otacon, who's basically like, "Hey, get the fuck out of there and don't get seen by any gecko on your way out." So now we know that these enemies are called gecko. And so you start making your way through the building, or some of the buildings, to get out to the edge. And Snake sort of, another cutscene hits when you hit the end of this area. And it looks like Snake sort of feels like he had gotten away. And so he goes to start smoking a cigarette. And one of the gecko notice him and basically kick down one of the walls. It is no. I'm skipping ahead. There's one. So Snake is sitting there. He's smoking a cigar or smoking a cigarette, and then blood starts to drip on his shoulder. And there's a prompt that you can, the same L1 sort of shoulder button prompt that we've got in all the games, where you can see whatever Snake is seeing at that point. He looks up, and in the jaws of this gecko, he's crushing a soldier, and so, or one of the rebel fighters. And so it starts to bleed on Snake. So Snake turns around, takes his gun, starts to shoot at him, and he does a bunch of damage to the Chun-Li legs, as Alex was saying, and it makes the gecko fall over and sort of fall upside down. So that gecko's trying to reorient itself, and Snake goes to reload, and when he does that, that's when the one through the wall comes kicking in, and Snake sort of dodges the rubble that's going through there, and when he does that, the sort of cloth-like cover that he had on comes off, and he does his superhero pose after he had dodged the rock, and his name sort of fades in, and it says Solid Snake, and then the solid part gets erased, and then it says Old Snake. And so we get his cool guy shot with his cigarette in his mouth, and Snake starts to, and we get to see his new sneaking suit, that whole thing, and Snake starts to run away from that gecko that just slammed through the wall. And as he makes his way up the stairs, it uses like this little, I don't even know what to call it, but like this fucking sort of like
tentacle
arm.
It's just a tentacle. It's a little robotic.
It's kind of like but
it's more like a wire. It's like a wire.
It's like a wire thing. Yeah. It's like a wire arm, basically. Yeah, thank you. It's like a wire arm that he uses, and it wraps around Snake's ankle and like yanks him back down. And sort of Snake like puts his foot like to stop himself from getting pulled all the way down, and he starts shooting at it. And the gecko goes to step forward, and it smashes the stairs, and so Snake is able to pull himself up and run. And this gecko, in order to continue to chase him, starts slamming its feet inside the foundation of the building so that it can climb after him, basically. And so Snake Ghost is like getting ready to run off the building, and the other gecko that had fallen down before is right there. It is, it was had picked itself back up, so it goes to climb up. So Snake is on both sides, doesn't know where to go. So we see him he drops the cigarette out of his mouth, and he runs to the side here, and it doesn't give us a full shot, but we start to see his camo suit sort of adhere and like blend himself into the environment here. And the gecko are looking for him. It's like gives us this infrared view. And then as they're looking at this box that says, Alex called this part out too when he texted me for some reason. But the box says "No place for Hideo," which is obviously a play on him saying "No place for hiding." And he does that because it looks like the gecko have seen this, and you can switch your point of view to Snake's, and it sort of like looks over and gives a shot from the side, but the gecko just stomp on this box, and the inside was nothing but watermelons. And the gecko just peace out and leave after that. And it then cuts back to Snake as the watermelon sort of like rolls over and like touches his leg and changes just one part of his thigh to a watermelon camo. And then he stands up, he picks up his cigarette, and he's like, ugh, and then, takes a little drag off of it. And then it sort of zooms out and shows the entire city of all these, like, the robots sort of leaving the area because everybody in there is dead now. And we get our late title card. Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, comes right across the screen. And he hops down, and then we get a flashback for 3 days later. But I'll pause there because the game, obviously, Act 1 starts right after this. So for this little tiny little opening area, I have my own thoughts on this. Like, I consider that whole section obviously the opening because the title card happens right there.
Prologue, yeah.
Sure.
But so how are you guys feeling at this point?
So I have a question. Clarity. When Snake turns around and is shooting all at that gecko, right? The first one, just like trying to get out of its way. Was it bleeding when he was shooting its legs?
It's the same thing as like when we fought Metal Gear Rex, like in 1, right? So it's not bleeding. It's just all of the like hydraulic fluids that are shooting out. Yeah,
that's fine. It was very blood colored.
Yeah.
It's oil.
Right.
I mean,
a lot of games and movies that do that with robots. So like, oh, we'll fill them up with the oil and stuff, so that way it's not uber violent because it's bloody, but it still has that tinge of it because you're still seeing liquids and stuff fly around.
Yeah, and that's fine. If it was blood, I think that's larger implications of just something different.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No, it's like oil, hydraulic fluid. Same thing that was in Metal Gear Rex.
Yeah. So far the opening is fine. There are some things I feel like I don't like control-wise, which is weird. We played all these games fairly back to back. If I want to hit somebody with a melee, I have to now do like L1 to ready myself. And I don't recall that being a thing in the past. Like if I want to hit somebody with a knife, like I have to do the L1 targeting first and then hit R1 to hit them. Where before, like in past games, like if I just had like a hand, I could just like run over like square.
Well, you can still do that. So that's the same. So if you equipped a knife or a sword in Metal Gear 2, you had to ready it and then do those things. But if you want to just like box somebody, just like punch somebody, you can still do that with the same button that you did in all the other ones.
The square button. Okay. So maybe it was just like I had that knife.
But if you're trying to, if you have the stun knife out though, and you want to use the stun knife, you have to ready the weapon and then do the thing. But if you just want to, just give somebody the old, what is it that Jake calls it, the old Ray Rice combo? If you want to do that one, you just press the same button you always have.
Okay. So I was playing on very easy, not easy, but like very easy. And
a liquid easy, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, and that was on purpose because when working, I still wasn't at the smoothest frame rate, and I didn't feel confident having to like shoot and do other things at a normal difficulty with the frame rate issues, right? So like I knocked down to very easy. So I was never in danger, but what I will say is like having the knife equipped and having to like ready and punch and stuff like that led to me missing a lot, like not being close enough to the person when I thought I was or other stuff. And it alerted a couple people, like they would turn around and knock me down. Then I could get up real quick and like stun them. But it led to a lot of like Snake just getting punched in the face and falling over.
Yeah.
So, I think it's interesting. At first I was like, oh, this is an interesting take on Snake. We'll learn more about that as Act 1 starts, like old Snake. I think it's interesting. I don't love the HUD, right, the colors, but otherwise it feels like a Metal Gear game feels. It was very cinematic heavy, this first part. Sometimes to its benefit, sometimes to its detriment, in my opinion. But I think it opens some interesting questions, like those geckos, I think are almost a deceiving name because like a gecko, you think of like a little lizard close to the ground. Like these things were jumping over buildings.
Like
they were
frogs.
flying.
For my entire life, I have never, and maybe I need to, I've never looked this up. I guess I could. I have never understood the name gecko.
Not for these. Like these bipedal things that like jump over
Hang on,
buildings.
Alex is frozen.
There we are. Yeah, no, I don't understand it for this either. Like these bipedal creatures that like are literally jumping over buildings as they're leaving. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
more
and we'll get
frogs,
to it,
yeah.
right? Because there's a point where Otacon says like, oh, that's Project Irving that the military uses and blah blah blah. And it's like, even that, like Project Irving even still makes more sense than but either way, yeah.
So,
Is it acronym, maybe?
but yeah, it's the opening was fine so far. Very, very brown. Everything's brown.
Brown,
The environment's
yellow,
brown. The writing's
orange.
brown.
PS3
everything.
360 era, man.
Yep, they do love their browns, yellows, and oranges.
Yes, they do. Yes,
So
they do.
everyone knows I am not playing the game. You have a hard time with all the emulations and stuff like that to get it working. So all my opinion will be based off of just like viewing it as like a movie. I might have some things to say here and there about combat and stuff, but it's not going to be really my experience.
I mean, you've played all 3 Metal Gear games, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got it. Yeah, but like Alex mentioned before, it is kind of disappointing that I can't play it. But either way, I like it. I like that David has like more of or Old Snake, if you will, has like a more gruff like. This dude's been smoking cigarettes for the past like 40 years. Like he's definitely got the smokers. Like a little going on there. He's a little bit older. Like, and I guess you'll find out more about why he is much older in this next act. But I do like the jump. I like the jump. I like how it feels more like near future rather than more modern day. It is modern day, but it's more near future with his like futuristic, his fantasy version of it. So. Good solid opening. Like I said, Alex mentioned like the font threw me off a little bit because in all 3 of them they kind of been very basic, more of like an impact type of a font. Mm-hmm. This is definitely more calligraphy type of font. So not that I hate, it's just it threw me off because we're on game number 4 and now all of a sudden we use calligraphy as a font.
Everything else looked like the box art, right? Like the very standard like military.
It's like an impact.
Metal Gear.
Yeah.
And now this one's not. Like it's like it doesn't match anything. It was weird. To Preston's point, at the voice thing, he sounds a little RFKE, right? Like for anybody that gruff little gravel in the throat, which I found interesting. Because the internet exists and your devices know everything about you. On YouTube this morning, an interview with David Hayter popped up, and it was like it asked me anything, and they asked him how he did the voices and why I chose what. And interesting. Anyway, all that to say,
he's a great voice actor, by the way.
Yeah,
I was just not aware of the David Hayter body of work beyond voice acting. Like,
oh yeah,
I
man,
did
he's
not
out there.
know he wrote X-Men, X2, The Watchmen. Like,
bro,
and what
you don't
awards,
know, you better ask somebody, all right?
I
Look,
know,
man.
and like what awards were like. I was not aware Mr.
David
Hayter
Hayter is the man.
doing.
He's a badass.
Yeah, put some respect on his name, brother. Yeah,
Dude,
He's
it was
not
it
just
was
a voice
impressive.
actor. Yeah.
No. When they said, I was like, wait a minute, I had to pause the video and go like Google it because I was like, he just said Watchmen X1, X2, and I was like, yeah, and like he was writing a Black Widow movie that before Black Widow was ever a thing that got scrapped just because of the reception to like other superhero movies at the time and so on. I was like, I apologize, Mr. Hayter, I was not aware.
Yeah. Some respect on that name.
that's what I'm saying. So I'll just say, obviously, I don't have too much to add between what you guys said. I think this is my second least favorite opening. So, the worst one in my opinion is Metal Gear Solid 2. I know people really like the whole thing, like the fake out and all that, and I do appreciate, like, I think in general the fake out of all that stuff is fine, but playing through the oil tanker and then waiting through the whole oil tanker mission to then get that late title card of Metal Gear Solid 2 just to have Raiden and do that whole thing, I think it's like very, very long. And I think it takes too long. Metal Gear Solid 1, obviously very good one, but I think that one, so it's like Metal Gear Solid 2, 4, 1, and then obviously the Halo drop with 3, I think is the best title card that they've ever done. It's very good. And then obviously Rising, but we'll get there when we get there. Rising's probably my favorite, but yeah. So so after this little opening area, we get into Act 1, and this is, we get a flashback where it says 3 days earlier. So it's Old Snake, and he's in a sort of cemetery, and it's looks like, we believe anyway, it looks like the same cemetery that we ended Snake Eater in. And Snake is sort of saluting in front of a grave, and we get introduced to the other cutscene mechanic that we're going to have in this game, which is the flashback mechanic. So when an X pops up on screen, you mash that button, and you'll start getting flashbacks of sort of this like genetic memory thing, which is basically just like whatever Snake, might have memory of or whatever.
In this case, was the white leaves. They're the flowers, like.
And it was Big Boss saluting at the boss's grave, and so then you can start to assume like, is he at Big Boss's grave? Like, is that what's happening here? Or we don't actually see the grave that he's at. We just know that he's saluting, and we get that flashback.
I assume he's at no. I guess it would work for Big Boss because he left the military post that he had, but like.
Well, that and Snake killed him, but.
Yeah, see, but it's all overgrown. I was like, it can't be a military one because it's all overgrown, right? Like, no military cemetery would be that.
Well, remember, it was the same thing. It was that all white. It wasn't overly grown. It was just all those white flowers were everywhere. But that was the same way in the end of Snake Eater when Big Boss was at the boss's grave.
I feel like there was more grass and stuff. Like, if you look, when they zoom in on the tombstone, there seemed to be more there.
And don't forget, like, she was not necessarily put down as a hero. Like, she was like the unknown hero. So it's probably not like a super nice military, like, gravesite. It's probably more of like this is where we put the ones that we honor, but we don't talk about or put in the books kind of thing.
And and to be fair, neither
I'm
was
making
Big
a lot
Boss,
of shit up,
right? Like,
to be fair.
Yeah.
Big Boss, when Big Boss died, he was also not seen as a hero. Obviously,
right.
He tried to create his own nation state off the coast of South Africa, which most people are usually not fond of. But, yeah, so... but he's sitting there, he's saluting, so we do the flashback thing, and those are basically the two things that we have to look out for in cutscenes. So it's the same, like look through Snake's eyes at something, and then this new flashback mechanic. And a helicopter flies in and sort of lands right next to him. The door swings open, and out comes everybody's favorite dork, Otacon. And Otacon comes running up to him, and Snake says, "Otacon, even the dead have ears." And Otacon just says, "Snake, we've got to go." And Snake turns around and looks at him, and Otacon goes, "You've got an old friend waiting for you." And they both start to head back to the helicopter, and Snake goes, "Otacon, wait, the test results." And Otacon sort of stops, and he thinks you can see he almost looks back at Snake, but instead just turns around and kind of looks down, and he's like, the proteome analysis was positive, but the mRNA analysis turned up negative. And he goes, "The wrinkled skin, the hardened arteries, your early aging symptoms look like classic Werner syndrome, but none of the tests were able to pinpoint the cause." And Snake goes, "So?" And then Otacon goes, "Well, judging by how rapidly the aging has progressed, I'd say..." And Snake they both continue to walk towards the helicopter, and Snake goes, "A year at best, right?" And then Otacon goes, "Yeah." And right when he does that, there's a white petal from that same flowers that sort of hit right into Snake's hand, and he sort of crushes it. And Otacon just goes, "Snake, let's try another doctor." Snake goes, "It won't make any difference. I'm not an ordinary man to begin with, not to mention Fox die." And we get another flashback opportunity here where if you start mashing that button, Snake will get a flashback of Kenneth Baker and Liquid Snake. So obviously from the first game, that's what we're seeing there. And Otacon goes, "You're right, but we also don't know where Naomi is." And Snake goes to say Naomi, and then he gets another flashback of obviously Naomi's portrait from the first game. And as soon as that flashback is happening as Snake is opening the door and getting into the helicopter, and Campbell is there, and he's like, "Hey, Snake," and then Snake's like, "Oh, Colonel, good to see you." And he's like, "Well, I'm not a colonel anymore." And then Snake's like, "I figured the only place I'd see you dressed like this would be your daughter's wedding. What are you doing these days?" And then Campbell's like, "I work for an organization under the UN Security Council. The analysis and assessment staff of the PMC Oversight and Inspection Committee." And Otacon gets in while he's saying this and sort of shuts the door. And Snake's like, oh yeah, I remember the resolution being passed a few years ago. And Campbell goes, we came across some information during this work, and we found him in the Middle East. And Snake sort of stares at Campbell, and Campbell is like, I'm going to, or he's like, I'll explain along the way, but we've got to stop him now before it's too late. And then Otacon sort of confirms what everybody might be thinking in this moment, which is Liquid's made his move. And you get another opportunity to get a flashback of Liquid Snake here. And more or less at this point, they say, like, hey, this is Liquid is getting ready to launch his insurrection. Like, he's getting ready to sort of rebel against the system of everything that's going on right now. And so from there, it flashes back to the present. Old Snake, we're back on top of the building. He sort of jumps down, and we get a little codec call with Otacon, and it just goes over sort of more tutorial stuff. We talked about this before, but Snake goes, the city is crawling with lizards. Obviously referencing the gecko, and Otacon is like, oh yeah, they're bipedal weapons, officially designated as Irving by the U.S. military. He was like, there's more things in this, there's more of those things in service now than tanks. And he's like, your best bet is just to completely stay out of their way. There's no reason to fight them. And the only other thing that happens in this conversation, more or less, is two things. We get a new objective on what we're supposed to go for, but the other thing is Snake just asks, he's like, so you're really sure that he's here? And they're like, Otacon's like, all of the data says that Liquid is here. And he goes, hey, so you're gonna have to find some stuff. You're gonna have to find all of these the Armory operatives that we're supposed to meet up with. You're gonna have to find them yourself. We don't really know where they're at just yet. He was like, but I went up ahead and used the Mark II to scout ahead before you'll arrive, so you'll find it up ahead. And it's Otacon basically just goes on to explain that it's just this little remote robot that is made out of the same technology that Metal Gear was made out of, except with none of the weapons power. So just this little robot that will be able to cloak itself and follow us around and do all this other stuff. From there, just like these other games that we've talked about, I'm going to skip past most of the gameplay parts because it's just going to be the same thing. We fight our way through the different streets, through these different soldiers, just making our way to where the Mark II is at. And Snake, as soon as we gets in, he's sort of like hiding behind this building, and he's like seeing all these soldiers go by. And Otacon sort of comes out like it's this little robot, but it comes out of cloaking. Snake immediately fucking, points the gun at it, and he's like, Snake, it's me! And then the fucking screen opens up, and it's just Otacon's dumb face on it. And Snake's like, Otacon? He's like, yeah, hey, sorry to keep you waiting, which is a, great line that they won't keep reusing through that. But he's like, allow me to introduce you to Metal Gear Mark II. And then he goes, yeah, just like Rex, because Snake goes, Metal Gear. And then another flashback happens of Metal Gear Rex. And he's like, but this, gear is not a weapon, just like I was saying. But he basically goes through and it's like, he gives us our new objective here. But he gives us two little gadgets, or three things actually. He gives us two weapons. He gives us a regular pistol and our trank gun. So we have those things now, and they are outside of the system. So they were made before the ID tag stuff happens, because earlier in the game it showed this when Snake was mentioning it during his monologue. But if Snake tries to pick up any of the weapons that are on the ground and use them, they will jam. They won't work because it's not tied to his genetic signature, which obviously stops soldiers from being able to go rogue or lose their weapons or, whatever. So he gives us a pistol and trank gun, and then gives us our new extra gadget to make us look like Big Boss here, but we get an eye patch called the Solid Eye. So no longer do we have to worry about finding the infrared goggles or the night vision goggles or anything like that. We are just given the Solid Eye, which has all of those things tied in. and also has like an audio sort of like radar around you that you will be able to, like, if you're hiding from somewhere and somebody's coming up, you'll actually be able to see the sound waves in this little circle that's around you, which is very helpful. But yeah, so he gives us our new objective to start making our way towards the informants. And that is more or less what we do. And we get an extra little thing here that will come into play towards the end of this act. But as we're running through the streets, basically with the rebels and the PMC fighting, Otacon is like, hey, in this particular instance, like, none of this war that's being fought here has nothing to do with you. So neither one of these sides is on your side, more or less. So you should just help whichever one ends up making your life easier to be able to get from point A to point B.
He makes a comment here too, I think, or maybe it's a little bit later when you're free roam, but it was like, because you're not on either side, it's like, everybody's hostile, but you also don't have a fight, so try not to hurt everybody, so just sneak through and make your way through peacefully. Does that impact, beyond like doing weird achievements of like you did a non-lethal playthrough or whatever, like does that actually impact anything you do trying to go through and not kill people?
From a story perspective, I don't believe so. Not like in the way that you're thinking. So there will be
Okay.
like it will affect,
Yeah.
right, but there's nothing like the end in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you and I had a very easy boss fight and Preston
Sure.
was fighting through seas of people because he mowed down most of the people that were in that game. To my memory, there is nothing like that.
Yeah. What I've seen in the playthrough is that he was helping some of them. Like anytime anyone would roll up with like an APC or something like that, he would like take the APC down, and all of a sudden you see his like little heart above like some of the troopers' heads, which means that later on when you are in certain areas with those troopers, they will not fight you. They're like, oh my god, like, oh, it's just you. And rather than fighting you, they'll see you as an ally, so you don't have to fight as much if you are on the side of someone like, yeah, that you're more on the side of, if you will, physically.
Interesting. Also, what you're telling me is the emoticons in Death Stranding actually isn't that original for even Kojima himself.
Oh, probably not. No, yeah.
Because
I told you, dude. I told you when
here.
you played through Death Stranding originally, there was so many things that I was like, you just like there was a like. That's why I got so mad at the ending, is because it's just Metal Gear Solid 3's ending, but worse. Like it's yes. Anyway, but yes, to Preston's point, there are gameplay implications to what you do, but there's nothing story related. Like you will not have a harder boss fight down the road because you smoked a bunch of people or whatever. Or
and it doesn't change the ending because you. No. Interesting. Okay.
Nope. But to Preston's point, and actually you can see this in this section. There's through one of these gameplay parts. There's the APC part that you mentioned, but you can start like if you take out a bunch, like if I use the trank gun and hit a bunch of the PMC people and put them to sleep, the soldiers will run through and be like, "Oh, we did it!" and they'll be like cheering and everybody's excited, and then you can just waltz through. Like they won't fight you, and you'll just get to walk through because they took that part of the city and it's fine. So different stuff like that. You can also in this little next section when you're crawling through the rebel base part out, and they will shoot you because they think that you're infiltrating, obviously. If you knock everybody out in there, but there's this room where all those people are injured and they will die because they will just succumb to their injuries. But you can actually save them all if you trank every single person in that room because they'll go to sleep instead, and they won't die. Whether or not that does anything later, I don't know. But I always do it because I just trank everybody in that room because it's funny, and then you just see the little. You can also trank anything in this game, so just like you could in Metal Gear Solid 3, but like there's that room with the chickens in it, you can put all the chickens to sleep if you really want to, whatever you want to do. But yes, so we make our way through that fighting zone and we get to the Drebin cutscene. As Preston, you can see, I told you already, Alex feels a very strong way about Drebin for some reason, but we'll get there, I guess. I agree with you, Preston. I don't think it's that deep, but we'll get there. Yeah, but so we come up through the city and we sort of are, we get through all those little fighting areas. We start coming up some stairs, and a so Snake spots a M4 on the ground, so like a rifle on the ground. He comes and he proceeds towards it, and a small monkey drinking a soda appears when Snake sort of rounds the corner, and he raises its gun at him as in surprise. Um, and Drebin comes out and goes, "Pretty sweet, huh?" And he's like, "Whoa, hold it! Watch where you aim at pointing that thing." So then Snake starts to aim his gun right over at Drebin. And Snake goes, "Who are you?" And then Drebin goes, "Neither enemy nor friend." And he waves this white cloth in front of this, like, his hand, and makes a grenade appear. Um, and then he sort of does it again, and he's like, "Voila!" And then turns it into an apple and tosses it to the monkey. Um, and he continues to point his gun. Snake keeps his gun trained on. He goes, "You're not with the militia, and you're not with PMC, or you're not a PMC." And then who we find out is Drebin. Right now, we don't know who it is. It just says question marks, but it's Drebin. And he's like, "I'm a weapons wholesaler, all shapes, all sizes. There's no need to worry because all of my shit's been laundered." And then Snake's like, "Laundered?" And Drebin goes, he goes, "I take the ID guns like the PMC use and then make some mods, and then you can use them without having to match IDs. So in other words, I'm a gun launderer." And he goes, "You can call me Drebin." And then Snake says Drebin, and then Drebin goes, "Yeah, that's what they use for all of us." And Snake goes, "There are more of you?" And then Drebin goes, "All over the world. Not that I've ever met any of them personally. Me, I'm Drebin, number 893. Then he goes, "You ain't a registered PMC employee, are you? You need a guy like me." And so Drebin picks up the M4 that was lying on the ground and hands it to Snake and says, "Consider it a welcome gift. You can take it." And Snake begins to accept it and does the same thing that it seems like everybody in his genetic line is predisposed to doing, which is completely tear down and examine the weapon and all of its little components to be just enamored with how it works. And Drebin basically, he gives a like a rundown on the M4, and Snake asks if the mods that he's made to the gun are CQC compatible. And Drebin goes, "The beauty of this sucker is that it's got a lot of customizable parts, so you can change it up however you need." And Snake starts going over all the different mods in the game, and Drebin goes, "Yeah, well, I get a lot of noobs around here, and if you need them, I got a wide selection of aftermarket parts as well." And he goes, "Go ahead and give her a squeeze." And Snake goes to attempt to fire the weapon, but the trigger won't pull. And so Snake goes, "I can't pull the trigger." And Drebin's like, "Really? That's weird." And then Drebin goes, "Wait, I got it. I bet you're using an older generation of nanomachines." And when he does this, and he says older generation of nanomachines, Snake actually loses a single bar to his psyche meter, so it goes down by one, being like, "Oh, I couldn't pull a trigger," and he got called old. And so Drebin says, like, sometimes they don't really jive with the new system, and he goes to inject him with something, and Snake sort of like flips his arm and points his gun at him. And Snake's like, "Seriously, who are you?" And Drebin's like, "Whoa, man, hold, slow down, no big deal." And he goes, "My day job's working at Arms Tech Security. I'm in charge of production control, so I get my hands on the ID chips before they're even registered." And he goes, "It's a side of AT's, the company." He's like, "It's the side of the public doesn't see. From the looks of it, you're not with any state army, but you're not exactly green either. You've got last gen nanomachines, so I'm guessing former U.S. Army." And Snake sort of looks back surprised, like, "Oh yeah, you kind of pegged it." And so then Drebin is like, "I don't know what you're here for, but you'll want to be well equipped. So can we talk business or what? You're not going to regret it." And we get a call from Otacon, who basically is just more or less like, Snake's like, "I don't know, do you think we can trust him?" And Otacon's like, "I mean, I don't know that we can trust anybody in this particular situation, but I don't know that you have much of a choice right now." And all of his information seems to check out. And he's like, "And if we can get, like free weapons out of this, then that would be great. And Snake asks him if he thinks that the Patriots are involved somehow. And Anacon's like, I'm not so sure if the Patriots, or he's like, I'm not so sure because if the Patriots were running the system from behind the scenes, then a weasel like Drebin would be a real pain in their collective ass. And so he goes, remember, Drebin's a green collar. He makes his living off of the war economy. He doesn't let emotions get in the way of business, and he never gets his own hands dirty. The only thing he trusts is money. He goes, I share your concern, but what if we keep him at arm's length and use him only to get intel and the supplies we need, keep it strictly business? Snake's like, all right, that works. And so they do the deal, and we get our new sort of way that we're going to be getting weapons throughout this game, which is all the enemies that we take down and collect their weapons or any of their gear from, we will sell that back to Drebin for Drebin points, and you can use that to either buy weapons, buy ammo, buy health, buy whatever it is that you need, and you can also use it to just straight up unlock certain gear that you find. So for instance, by this point, there is a hidden RPG that you could have found, and you can just go to him at this point now and just unlock the RPG that you found, and then now all of that and the ammo that you had is able to be used. And so to basically finish this, he basically hands Snake a syringe and tells him that he can stick himself with it, and it is a nanomachine suppressant that will allow Snake to work with this new system. And so he does that. Snake pulls the trigger, the gun shoots, and then we get our pip of Psyche back because Snake is now not embarrassed that he couldn't use a weapon in front of somebody. And from there, I mean, that's really it. There's a little extra hit where Drebin sort of gives some extra background on the black market, what he's doing, and different things like that. But at the end, he gives basically just saying like, hey, anytime you need weapons, you just let me know. And he goes, and then remember, and he points his little finger guns at us, and he gives us his little catchphrase here where he says, I have you. And then he shuts the top hatch to his vehicle. He pulls off, and we move on right now. So we're making our way, continuing to the informants. And so as we come out of here, we get another scene where there is a PMC soldier who sees somebody inside an oil drum. And he's pointing his gun. He's like, who's in here? Who are you? And there's a voice that you can hear from inside that says, go away, I'm not done yet. And the militiaman sort of begins shaking his head and knocks it over. And who do we see but our old friend from all the other games, Johnny. And he is here, and he was having a little IBS. Preston did after he had his chili queso dog from the soccer game the other night.
Mm-hmm. This was the part. So I had a problem with Drebin. The thing that got me with Drebin is two. I don't hate the character. What annoyed me is in this world with the most ridiculous names, right? In Kojima's mind, you have all of these different names. And the best you can come up with for this dude is Drebin. From the guy that came up with The Sorrow, Heartman, Die Hard Man. If you're talking about all the things from the Metal Gear series, the best you can come up with is Drebin is kind of offensive. But then the other thing is and I told Christian, I was like, this is the part I thought were ridiculous. I was like, he's 893, which implies there's at least 893. And I Googled it, and according to the fan wiki, there's at least on the Metal Gear wiki, 1,000 Drebins. And they make the comment.
There's some less. There's no more than 1,000. Correct, is what it says.
Okay, well, it's just the fact that they're like, oh, it's a relatively small group. We don't need to worry about it. I'm like, 1,000 of these dudes is not a relatively small group. Like, if you think about it, that would be like one of these arms dealers per 7 million people, right? That's like one dude for New York City, and the rest can break up the country in like divisional retail sales. Like, what are we doing right now?
So-
I think when you
This is a big problem, and that's assuming that every country is at war in the same way and needs a Drebin per
which
country.
they are, because that's
If
what
not-
they've said in this world, is that war is happening all over and there's different
Right.
war economies all over. But also, if the world is, what, 300 billion people, 1,000 people is an awfully small percentage of
Also, there's a meaning behind the
No,
name.
it's 6 to 7 billion people. So again, it's 1 per 7 million.
that. You don't know what it is in this world. Okay,
Yeah.
either way, 7 billion people,
a
1,000
lot.
people is an awfully small
Right, I
percentage.
don't know why.
It's a small percentage, but it's not a small number of people dealing arms all over the your chance.
I guarantee you
your
there is
chance of
I-
coming across one of these people or like people in relation is higher than the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Like there's
I don't
just
think
such
that's true.
It is.
So, the name Drebin. I don't know if you've seen the movies, but there's also a character in movies called Frank Drebin. He's
What
the main
movies?
character of the Naked Gun movies.
Oh,
The term Naked Gun is even used in the game. He makes guns ID free, naked.
and we do know that Kojima loves his Hollywood, Preston.
Does
We
love
do
his
know that.
Hollywood.
Just like you, honestly.
Yeah. Not wrong.
Yeah, that just made Alex more mad. I honestly
I
do
know.
not think it's that deep. I think that it is like the math completely. I guarantee you, in today's world, I think that the U.S. has, as in our employ right now, where we sell arms to people. I bet you we have at least 1,000 people in that.
I don't think that Drebins should be taken lightly, and I don't think we should write them off as a
Snake wasn't taking him
relatively
lightly.
small group of people that don't. I just think it's a big deal. Otacon took it pretty fucking lightly, and I just
I don't
think
think
it's
so.
a bigger.
No, he
problem.
did not. Otacon does not take it lightly. He's just like, look, man, you need weapons, and look, I think we just keep him at arm's length, and you just use him for what you can use him for. And if it gets weird, then break it off and don't talk to him anymore.
Part of this new world's economy. He just happens to be
man. Yeah, I think you are hyper fixated on this for no reason.
Yeah.
I saw it the whole part. I'm like, I get the character is fine. Like I get you're doing weapons. I think the interactivity piece is a little annoying and dumb. Like you get Drebin points and every gun. Like I don't know. I think it would be more fun if I had to manage some of this stuff. Like I could choose to sell you guns versus like everything you pick up just gets sold to him. Because it's kind of the point. Like I hit the first act and they're like, you have 64,000 Drebin points, and I'm like, okay. I mean, like I can go in there and buy a f ton of stuff, but also like I didn't do anything to earn it. I was running around the world, and I just.
I mean, you did and you didn't, right? Because if you don't engage with any enemies and you run by, then you won't get any of that stuff. And that means you have less equipment to deal with in the future. So you either it's like a risk and reward thing, right? Like you're either fighting people and getting all this stuff to be able to have extra equipment, or you're fighting nobody and having nothing. But for the equipment that you do have, you're not wasting any resources. So it's
Yeah.
the back and forth.
Yeah, it's just weird. I don't know. I just found that his the idea of like every gun you touch just goes immediately to him, and it turns into points. And like I get the story behind it, I do, but I was like, this is just a weird addition that I don't, I haven't seen the benefit from. I don't know how much I care about it, especially on the difficulty too. Like I'm playing on that probably makes a big difference, and that's all based on the emulation reason. But like,
Well, I think the problem there is that so in all the other games, right, like even in Snake Eater, right, like you were able to take people out and then get their weapons, and then it was fine. But in this, because of the universe that Kojima has created, Snake wouldn't be able to use anything that he found along the way anyway. Like, there's not like I can't go and claim things for myself because everything would just not work in my hands. So you need to have sort of a.
But now we can, thanks to him, right? Like because of what he put it like. Did to us.
So now you can continue the same way that you have in other games, which is go and scavenge for the things that you want to use.
Right, but then I guess do I need the extra mechanic of like everything I touch just gets sold back to him and so on, beyond just giving me a reason to like it actually what it does is it forces you to purposely, like, if I trank somebody over there, I probably want to go out of my way to run over and touch it, because then it gets sold to him, even if I don't plan on using it, sort of thing.
Well,
Where
but there's
before I might
also
have been
you
like,
can
"Meh,
find things that are
run by."
just like on the ground and stuff. But yes, but all the thing is well, the mechanic part of it is that it's a transaction. Like Drebin, like Otacon calls it out, but so does Drebin even in his long speech, which is, if you give me this stuff, I make more money, and in that turn, I will not charge you for the things that you want to do. So, because that's why Snake isn't actually paying him any money. It's all in this fucking point
Points,
system or
right?
whatever. So he's like, I won't charge you anything as long as you provide me with enough stuff to cover whatever it was that you wanted,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can do that. So,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it was fine. It was fine. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, there's a lot of things going on with this playthrough, with this game, that could be affected in different ways. Like, again, my cutscenes don't have audio, so I have to, like, pause when I know I'm gonna hit a cutscene and then go watch it, which is a little
To
bit
be
of
fair,
which is a bit immersion breaking, and then have
I
to
will
go
say-
back. So, like, there could be some of that stuff. I didn't hate the character. There was just general implications of the where it's like,
If you do get this working, I would say that you should either, like, what you're doing tonight or whenever you try it to get back to, like, whatever state you used to be in, I would say is not ideal anyway. I would prefer you just watch it at that point. Like, I know you want to play it,
I do.
but having to pause and then watch a cutscene so that you can get the audio is, like, very bad. And so
It is. It's
just to watch it.
It really is immersion breaking, especially with as many cutscenes as there are. Because what would happen is, like, I would hit a cutscene,
Like, that's not going to get
watch
easier, is what I'm telling you.
right? I would watch it, and I would come back to the game, or maybe, like, the cutscene would immediately go into another cutscene. So then I was like, oh, he walks for 5 seconds, it's cutscene, I might as well just continue to watch through, and then go back and play it and skip. It wasn't ideal. It's not ideal, but
No, I would not do that. I would, if anything, like, whenever the part 2 of the Legacy Collection comes out, you can always just go back and play the game then, and it'll be fine. But otherwise, yeah, I would either just watch, or, like I said, we can figure out a time and we'll stream it and do that. Or, who knows, like I said, we'll maybe, as we play along, maybe we'll figure something out. Either way. But yeah, so the Johnny thing. So Johnny is there. He has his little IBS bout. He runs off, and the soldier goes to chase him down.
That's what I was going to start with, the Johnny thing. When you brought this up, his thing at IBS, dude, the biggest eye roll I ever had. I told you this. You could see his butt, which was goofy, coming out of the whole, like, trash can sort of thing, because clearly he was pooping and he was having trouble. But it was actively the open cheek fart. He was squatting, and it was just the open cheek fart. And I was like, Kojima, did you need the open cheek fart before he runs away with his ass showing and the guy chasing him? So ridiculous.
Given how Johnny has been utilized in all of the past games, I'm gonna say yes, he does, because that's all he's done in all the games that he's been in. In Metal Gear Solid 1, he had that little bathroom break, and that's what allows us to break out, and you can hear him in the bathroom, doing that whole thing. In 2, when Raiden is fucking, in there using the microphone gun, you can point it at the door and hear Johnny having his problems in there. So he's always been comedic relief, and who knows? Like I said, in this game, every single plot point will be closed. So we will be figuring out about Johnny whether you want to or not. But yeah, so there's this scene. We get control of Snake again, and we make our way through the building that allegedly the informants are supposed to be in. And there is some traps that are all set up wrong here. We disarm them the same way that we always do. We just crawl right over them, and then Snake gets a bunch of C4 and sleep grenades and stun grenades that you can add to your inventory. And you can find some extra things, extra rations, all sorts of stuff, right? We go through here, and we make our way to the top of this building, and as soon as we walk into this room, Snake, so the same sort of like masked man from earlier, comes from behind the door and aims a rifle at Snake's back and says, "Drop your weapon." And Snake's like, "All right." And Snake sort of slowly places his gun on the floor. And uh, so he tells Snake to move away from the weapon. And as Snake sort of moves away from the weapon, he turns around and examines. And the guy, Johnny's like, "Don't move." Snake's like, "You haven't even turned the safety off, rookie." And he's like, "Careful, I'm no rookie. I'm a 10-year vet." And the man sort of appears like surprised because Snake sort of rolls his eyes and tilts his head to the side to like look at the weapon. And the man goes like, "Oh, I mean, did I leave the safety on?" And like takes a look. And right then, Snake punches him right in the throat, flips him down, takes his weapon, and then puts his knee across his neck. And removes the safety off of it and then aims the rifle at him. And Snake goes, "How the hell did you ever survive 10 years?" And another voice is heard from the other side of the room that says, "Don't move." And a second masked soldier appears with two other soldiers on Snake's left and right. And the character, the other soldier goes, "CQC, a real big boss, huh?" And then goes, "Lower your weapon and do it slowly. I wouldn't try anything funny if I were you." And Snake starts to push his knee on Johnny's throat, and Johnny's like tapping on his leg, like, "Please stop." And Snake notices the Foxhound logo on this other character's bulletproof vest. And Snake goes, "Fox." And then Snake and the other soldier basically immediately lower their weapons, and the character goes, "Snake." And they remove their mask, and who do we see under the mask but Meryl herself in the new PS3 resolution as opposed to the old PS1 model. But if you get the you will start to mash the X button and you will get a flashback of the old PS1 version of Meryl. Obviously, we get the little title card for her name. And she says Snake and sort of is like surprised about it. And Snake goes, "Meryl?" And then she's like, "Is that you?" And she goes, "What happened to your face?" And she like gets in closer, and Snake sort of like turns away and is like, "Meow." And he goes, "Accelerated aging. They don't know the cause." And Meryl just goes, like she turns basically away from him and is like, "Oh my God." And then the Snake's like, "So you're the informant in the U.S. military?" And she goes, "And that means that you must be the inspector sent by the UN. And the other soldiers sort of start to stand down, and she says, "Akiba," and like that's obviously she's shouting at Johnny down on the ground. Johnny jumps up and says, "Commander," and before he can even get all the way into a full salute, she uppercuts him, and he falls right back down, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then he's just laying on the ground. And Meryl goes, "This is Rat Patrol 01. And she goes, "We're with the CID, the Criminal Investigation Command, one of the bodies investigating the PMC activity in this area." And it shows, everybody in there, and one of the bigger guys, or no, this part, sorry, this is after that. But Johnny joins the group. He like scrambles off the ground for their little Ginyu Force pose that they do here, very anime. And so Snake goes, "First hounds and now rats." And then Snake goes, "Here, you can have this back," and sort of tosses the rifle back at Johnny. And Johnny sort of like growls at him like, "Oh, I'm so tough." And then he's like, and you can hear his stomach start to turn. He's like, "Oh," and like falls over. And Snake's like, "What is your problem? Are you okay?" And he's like, "Do you have stomach pains?" And then he goes, and Johnny sort of like nods his head and he's like, "It's diarrhea." And Johnny just basically scuttles off, and Snake walks back over to Meryl. And she's like, "It's been 4 days since Liquid arrived on the scene," and she sort of slides some photos over to him. And she goes, "And since then, this woman's been with him." And she goes, She doesn't look like a combatant, probably some sort of advisor, maybe a scientist. And she goes to like sort of as Snake is looking at all these photos. Meryl goes to put her arm on Snake's like shoulder, or her hand on Snake's shoulder, and Snake sort of like shrugs her off more or less, and is like, "So you're the commander of this O1 unit?" And she goes, "Why? Is there something wrong with that?" And she goes, "Here, I'll introduce you to our team. That's Ed, our radio man and sniper." So it shows Ed and he sort of like waves, but he's got like the radio on his back and he's the sniper. And then she goes, and the sleeping giant is Jonathan. I actually love this little part here, but Jonathan sticks his head up, and at first it just looks like he has a mohawk. But when he sticks his head up, it's the exclamation point that enemies used to get over their heads, and it makes the sound effect when he sits up, which I thought was a funny little nod. She goes, but don't stand behind him. He hates when people go around his back. And then she goes, and then finally. And Johnny comes running back in the room, apparently still experiencing some stomach pains. And she goes, Johnny, but everybody calls him Akiba. And then he goes, Commander, I finished installing the sensors. And she goes, okay, Akiba. And then she goes, anyway. And Snake goes, so it looks like you're all grown up. And then she goes, maybe it's because someone taught me well. A certain legendary hero who suddenly disappeared. Because you quit the unit. Me, I never gave up on you or on Foxhound. Back then, I just wanted you to accept me. I wanted you to turn around and see who I was. But I've put the past behind me, and I'm done playing little love games. And Snake just gets up and walks away from the table. And she goes, so what are you here for? And he goes, I'm here to do a threat assessment on the PMCs. And she goes, really? Because I heard there's a rumor that there's an assassin out there targeting Liquid. And he goes, well, that's some rumor. I'm only here for the UN because the UN wants me to assess the impact and effects of PMCs on the refugee protection efforts. And she goes, that's all? And then he's like, that's more than enough for a retired vet like me. And she goes, I know he's plotting an insurrection, but as long as AT security systems is in place, there's no way he'll succeed. Snake goes, well, how can you be so sure? And she goes, they've implemented a system that monitors in real time every single soldier engaged in combat action, whether he's state, army, or PMC. Each individual soldier has been fully ID tagged with nanomachines injected into their bodies for that purpose. And this, so the screen sort of shifts over to, we saw this a little bit in Metal Gear Solid 2. No, it was a little bit in Metal Gear Solid 3. This scene is going to be pretty, like, this sort of transition that happens is going to be all over this game. But it's more of like, this is Preston's probably his favorite part that kept him most awake during his watch through, which is, this is what I consider the lore dumps, where it's basically just like the screen transitions and it's just them throwing like little images and facts at you. And it's just like, here's what's happening. And we're just going to drop a fuck ton of lore. But basically this part is, the system that she is breaking down more or less, like basically the worst case scenario that everybody thought of in Metal Gear Solid 2, right? So every soldier is just in this giant database, and there's people at computers elsewhere monitoring these people and adjusting them as needed to be able to make sure that they're still the most well-oiled killing machines that they need to be. So if somebody would potentially be feeling empathy or fear or whatever, these nanomachines can suppress that and continue to make them do what they need to do. If somebody were to get hungry, it can remove that. If they get hurt, it can dampen the pain so that they continue to do what they need to do all the way up until they get treated, all that stuff, right? It handles all of that, and they said, she even makes a point in here that even police agencies across the world are starting to adopt this system. And it continues to go, and Snake basically just asks her, and he goes, and you think, or he goes, and the Patriots are behind this? Because obviously Snake is the only one who knows about that at this point. And Meryl goes, the Lolly Lule Low. She goes, what are you talking about? And Snake goes, never mind. So anyway, the system is foolproof, huh? And she goes, yeah, it's completely foolproof. They call it SOP, and he says Sons of the Patriots, alluding to the fact that this is obviously what Solidus was wanting to have done all Which shows that Liquid honestly is taking advantage of part of this because he's in Revolver Ocelot's body, right? We remember that from the end of the second game, so he was able to have full knowledge of Solidus's plan while also being himself. Meryl goes on, when he says Sons of the Patriots, Meryl says the AI that controls it is a tightly guarded secret, both at Armtech Security, where it was developed, and at the Pentagon. There's no way a third party could get in control of it. And Snake was like, well, that's interesting, because I just met a guy who said that he could launder ID guns. The system does have holes. And she goes, there can't be more of a few hundred than those gun launderers. It's just a grassroots movement. It's not like they can affect the entire PMC war machine. So anyway, Liquid would have had to register as a PMC in the state in the system to assemble an army that massive. His PMCs might even exceed the U.S.'s military in terms of numbers, but as long as they're registered, their soldiers' activities are constantly being monitored. And so as long as the U.S. responds immediately when Liquid makes his move, we can take them down by force. From there, she mentions that, she's the most recent inspection team that has been sent in out of the undercover, but the other 5 that they sent in have all been found out and killed by Liquid's PMCs. And she goes, and Snake's like, so then if you got caught, she goes, we'd be exterminated on the spot. That she's pretty confident in the cover that they've built up. From there, they basically, starts handing him photos of, she's like, we know where he's at. We finally have tracked him down. And that's where we got orders to provide you with all of this intel. And she goes, but I had no idea that it was going to be you that they would send. And he goes, didn't the colonel tell you? And she goes, Colonel. And Meryl suddenly gets like visibly distressed and is like, don't tell me it's Campbell. And Snake's like, yeah. And she goes, he put you up to this? And Snake's like, you had no idea. And she slams her fist down on the table. And she's like, you've got to be kidding. You expect me to work with my uncle? And she like clears the table. And she's like, this is bullshit. He's not my father. And Snake's like, calm down. She goes, so you knew? Or he goes, so you knew? And she goes, yeah, a little violation of the need to know rule. And he goes, so then why are you still calling him uncle? And she goes, well, you're still calling him colonel. And he's like, okay, but he's your father. She's like, as far as I'm concerned, we're still uncle and niece. I'll never forgive that womanizing piece of shit. And Snake sort of is like, yo, relax. And she's like, did you know that he remarried? His new wife is about my age. I hear she's even got a kid. It's as if he's given up on making up with his own daughter. And she goes, men, selfish, egotistical pigs. Ed, as he's sitting on the couch, he notices a flashing light on the scanning equipment and moves over to it and calls her over and says there's about 20 people, but they're not from the PMC or Praying Mantis. It's the frogs. And then Meryl goes, it's Liquid's private death squad. And Johnny's like, oh crap, this is not good. And Meryl asks us if we're being followed, and Snake was like, no. And then Meryl notices that Johnny's binoculars that he was using was flashing light back and forth. And so he's like, oh my God, it wasn't my fault, I swear. And he starts like banging his head against the ground, like freaking out, doing all this other stuff. And she calls him a dumbass and just says we're moving out. And from there, we get into another fight scene here where we basically, right before we start to walk out, she basically goes, all right, guys, we've got a real live legendary hero with us, so try not to choke. And Snake sort of like he like scoffs when she says that, and then they move out and they start to fight here. So this is where we get to see the new type of enemy. So it's the frog soldiers. They are like souped up nanomachine, sort of like vamp style enemies, but not as let's say like pervy as Vamp is probably the nice way to say it. But their pumped is just full of mini mana machines, so they don't even have eyes anymore. It's all like cybernetic enhanced things, and if you even if you trank them, their body just disintegrates because Liquid has made it so that he doesn't want any part of them to be able to be recovered in some way, to be able to be studied or anything like that. And so as we get through the fight here, it's just basically you're making your way out of the house and trying to hit an escape route tunnel that they have found before. And when this happens, we get all the way down to the bottom, and one of the soldiers gets a drop on I forget his name, the larger guy though, the exclamation point guy, and he gets shot in the shoulder, and there's a shot where you see that him, Ed, and Meryl all basically are able to like sync up in this moment and know exactly where the other one needs to turn and what they need to do, and he also is not in pain, and they basically take all three soldiers out that got the drop on them within one shot, just spin around and do it in a very like little stylish way. And Snake basically asks him a question about it, and she's like, perks about being part of the system is she's like, I see everything that they see what I see, like we feel everything, and so like it enables us to just be able to respond in any situation without getting freaked out. And we start to leave here, or they start to leave, and she basically tells us to be careful. And as soon as we give her a little nod, she leaves. And from right there, we get a codec call from Otacon, who's basically just like, we tell him we know where Liquid is, and Otacon goes, "Yep, I'm confirming the location. It's north of where you are." And Snake, just like in Metal Gear Solid 2, when he comments about Raiden's training, because Otacon makes a comment about Meryl seeming more self-assured than she has in the past. And Snake goes, "Well, I wonder how much of that has to do with the system. The senses you used to develop, but through extended training and experience, can now be obtained without even working for them. Seems once you're under the system's control, you don't even need experience at all. It beats even the VR training that was all the rage back that he used to make fun of Raiden about in the second game." And Otacon makes a comment here where he's like, yeah, the growing need for PMCs has led to a creation of more reliable, cost-effective supply of elite soldiers, and also made the child soldier phenomenon that Raiden was a part of, obviously, more problematic than ever. And so Snake asks, like, can the nanomachines do anything to counteract post-traumatic stress disorder? And Otacon's like, good question. I don't know. I'll try to figure it out. The main thing here is that he noticed that Snake is like, it's so weird that all of them were fine. He's like, but that geek kid, Akiba, was really starting to fucking lose it. And Otacon's like, yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe it can only augment, existing things, but can't actually fix all the problems. Who knows? He's like, but either way, just keep that little thing tucked away there. And from there, we make our way to Liquid's encampment. And we go through fighting a couple different sections, and we basically, there's a section where this like bulldozer is trying to take down a bunch of like military encampments here, and it like stops in its tracks, like it can't move anymore, and one of the militiamen are like, oh my god, it's the beast. And from there we a few of the militiamen that start to turn around and start to like run away immediately get limbs cut off or cut in half, and it's by like this like sweeping sort of like thing that looks like a raven, and it starts flying around and is just yelling rage over and over again, and there's militiamen in the front that were shooting at this like four-legged wolf. They start to leave, and they are the wolf is like chasing them down. They get intercepted by a mechanical octopus that grabs them all, and then just says, laugh with me, and it crushes them all, and they all just die. And the field leader, the commander sort of thing, he goes to run, but he gets stopped in his tracks by like what appear to be like very like little marionette strings, And this is the only one that makes Snake sort of like take it back, and he goes, "It can't be," and he gets a flashback to Psycho Mantis. Because obviously that was something that he did in the first game, but he shifts his attention to the other ones, and they all start to leave and basically chase down the rest of the soldiers, and they kill everybody. And all of the other three sort of animals, more or less, they leave with the sort of Psycho Mantis person, sort of being the last one to sort of float off. And they all leave, and everybody is dead, and it leaves Snake to just be able to walk up the street, just with nobody there. And there's actually like an overhead sound that plays where it was like, "This area has now been liberated thanks to the Praying Mantis Corps. Please consider us for all future like wartime needs," or something like that. And so it's like very dystopian in that like these freedom fighters get killed, and then it's
War
just like,
man. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like, kind of like comes out and it's just like, "Hey, we did it. So everybody pray, thank you for using our service." Like, it's like, they just fucking door dashed some murder
again.
really quick. Yeah. And so from here we keep fighting. We make all our way to Liquid's encampment, and as soon as we get in, he tells Otacon to sort of wait back with like the little character, and or with the little Mark II, and Snake is like, I found it's Liquid, and Snake is sort of making his way from cover to cover to try to get like a good angle on where Liquid is at, and we make eye contact with Meryl, who's a little bit farther on the other side here, and Meryl basically calls us and is like, "I knew you were here to kill Liquid." And Snake is like, "Yep, that was my mission. So are you going to try to stop me?" And she's like, "My mission is to inspect the PMCs. I'm not in a position to take action. All I can do is stand by and watch, but I can't help you. So if this goes south, like, there's nothing I can do." And Snake's like, "Yeah, that's fine." And right as it looks like Snake is getting ready to take the shot, Liquid Ocelot he pulls a radio out and just says, "Activate it." And as soon as that happens, this sort of sound like echoes, just like, from all these towers, like this sort of like electric sort of like waving, more or less. And every soldier in the entire area, both Meryl's group and all the PMCs, all start to just collectively lose their fucking mind. Like, some of them are just having seizures, some of them are foaming at the mouth, other ones get like blind rage and start punching the shit out of people, some people start shooting at people, except Johnny. Johnny's the only one in that group that does not have anything that happens to him. And he starts to try to gather up all of his friends and like pull them away and like do these things, trying to get everybody to snap out of it. And the camera cuts back to Liquid, and it's like, "I never thought it would be so easy, but these results, they're refreshing, don't you think?" And sort of the woman that he's with sort of turns away and sort of like, it looks like disgusted with herself, or disgusted with the situation. And Snake can start to be seeing that he's affected by the same symptoms that are going on, but it's not as bad. Like, he still has a little bit of control, but it's definitely like waving, and his vision is blurry and all this other stuff. And he gets ready to try to make some sort of shot on Liquid while he still can. But he falls over, and when he falls over, that's when Liquid notices him and goes, "Brother, it's been too long." And Snake shouts out Liquid, and he's trying to get his balance. And Liquid says, "Rejoice, we are not copies of our father after all. We are freed from the shackles of fate. Brother, we are free. Watch, Snake, watch as I surpass my own origin." And as he's trying to sort of Snake's trying to get to his feet and different things, the woman that was near Liquid Ocelot appears next to Snake and sort of injects herself with something. And Snake goes, "Naomi," and we get another flashback mechanic of Naomi's picture from the first game. And Naomi says to us, Snake, if you, or who we believe is Naomi anyway, goes, Snake, if you won't be prisoner to fate, then go, fulfill your destiny. Which, if we remember, that is something that she said to us at the end of the first game when she extremely rudely, in my opinion, was like, I'm not going to tell you what is going on with your particular brand of fox dye. I'm not even going to tell you if you have it. But you should just live. Just, go out there and don't be a prisoner to fate. Just live your life, whatever that means. And um, from there, Liquid is shown on the roof of the building, and he is getting into a helicopter, and he's getting ready to leave. And so he sort of flicks his glasses down and is watching sort of Snake struggle from down there. And as he takes off, him and Naomi leave. And Gecko are seen like leaping behind his getaway transport to follow along with him. And Snake his eyes are starting to turn red as he loses consciousness, and he makes out one lone figure among the PMC troops that is acting normally and heads his direction and says, "Snake, hey, are you all right? Grab on." Obviously, being Johnny here, and Snake helps Snake to his feet. And they take him away from the encampment, and the scene fades as Snake starts to lose consciousness. And from right here, we get our save screen. And this is where the mission briefing screen pops up, which is where we said to stop. So this is where we stopped. Alex, I know you went a little bit too far here, but we'll deal with that later.
I just watched the mission briefing is what I did.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine.
But yeah, so the last thing that we see that mission briefing scene. So we'll pick it up from there for Act 2. I forgot to say the name of this act is Act 1, Liquid Sun. This is Act 2, Solid Sun. Is what Act 2 will be. And so before we get into the final thoughts, I'm just going to say, just for everybody that knows, this is going to be the pattern that we play through this game, right? So we're just going to do an act each time because that's the easiest way to break this up. So for this one, we are going to be finishing Act 2. And when that same save screen happens at the end of Act 2, there will be another mission briefing scene that leads into Act 3. You will stop at that mission briefing scene. So just don't, as soon as that pops up, close the game or pause the video, whatever we were doing at that point. Yeah, that's it. That's what we're doing. So
okay.
Preston, thoughts?
Sure. So I'm liking everything that's happening. I noticed that all of the quote unquote vamp, the frog people, all had female voices. And then I did like
if you drink one, I actually took a photo because I thought it was weird when they turned into dust. That's when you couldn't tell when fighting, but they were I saw boobs and others. And I was like, wait a minute, are they all female? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I noticed when I shot them. Yeah.
Yeah. You also got your rogues gallery of the game, so they showed us all their the Beast, the Dr. Octopus person. They got Psycho Mantis person. They got the flying one, the Rage, who I'm assuming is going to be called the Rage.
No.
Okay.
They will all. I'll just say they're all going to be named after the animals that they are portraying. Sure. So that's whatever something Raven.
I'm sure.
There's the wolf. All that.
And yeah, other than that, I liked what I'm seeing. Every time I see it's Revolver Ocelot, and when he's talking to Snake, I just think of Afro Samurai with the one dude the priest and hear me, my brothers. He's got that big southern drawl. That's all I think about when I see him, and I hear him not talk now. And then lastly, I don't know anything about this game really. Like I said, I've seen some boss stuff later on, but as far as characters and stuff, I have no idea what's going on. I don't believe Johnny's Johnny. I'm just gonna say that right now and put that out there. I don't think that's fucking Johnny.
All right.
I too don't either, because I think it's weird that you are all of a sudden giving a lot of characterization to somebody that's just been a goofy Easter egg in the other games. So maybe it is, but I also don't think it's Johnny. I am liking it. I am concerned about the rogues gallery. because in my opinion, all of these unique bosses have been what's made all of these games so fun. To be fair, like there's different quality of bosses per the games, but they showed a bunch of them here and they all look the same. Like I get it, one girl has like shit coming out of her head and one dude's flying around, but they all look like this dark gray, like they all just look the same.
Again,
So I'm a
PS3 era, yeah, just everything's gonna kind of look meh, brown,
Sure.
yellow, yeah, black, yeah.
Sure. So that's concerning to me. And it may be different when we get there, but like I mean really we're coming off a game in 3 that had like this amazing like gallery of bad guys that were so unique.
Yeah,
And
everybody
even
but
two,
the fear
honestly,
is good. The fear sucks, but
they but they're special in themselves and the way they look and the way they're designed,
I think
right? And
well,
like even
no,
even
the
in
fear is
two,
basically just less weird vamp. I agree with you on every boss in that game. I think that they are all, and I still think it's my favorite one. I think they're all, but the fear is bad. He's bad.
but like but even go to like 2, right? Like Vamp's design
I hate
and
Vamp's design.
the dude on roller skates and stuff.
Fat Man.
Fat Man, they're all different and unique. And just from the quick snapshot, like all these dudes look the same. So we'll see.
Uh-huh.
Maybe they're much cooler than that. But the initial thing is like, you're the flying black gray guy. You're the one that looks like a wolf, black gray person. You're the one that has shit coming out of their head, black gray person. Like, so we'll see. But that was my only concern. Like initially, I was like, okay. And then so otherwise I'm looking forward to it. The only thing that has now stuck out to me in listening to you, I did not catch this when I was watching the cutscene, but I caught it when you read it. You said like, "Oh, the sons of the Patriots," and Meryl said, "Lolly lule lo." What are you talking about? And it hit me from 3, where we hear that as Big Boss. Are there people that are brainwashed in a way they're not allowed to say this word, or are we brainwashed in a way we're not allowed to hear this
But
word?
we think we're saying that word, but everyone else hears "lally lulelo." I thought that too as soon as I saw that said. Yeah.
So that
You're closer on your first thought.
okay, so it didn't hit me when I heard it, but when you read it and the way you read it, I then got teleported back to like us as original stake watching them talking, and it said too, where it's like la 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 la, because so out of place in 3. You're just like, what the like, what does it mean? And it's never answered, and now I'm just like, can these people not say this word? There's something going on with this. So
The Patriots
yes,
don't want to be known
anyway.
about, so maybe people can't say that word.
They sure don't.
So yeah, I just thought that was interesting that this is
Yeah.
the first time that has stuck out to me here.
Yeah, you're closer on your first thought.
Okay.
Which is why Metal Gear, like I said, in Metal Gear Solid 2, when we played through it this time, its story hits closer today than it did even back then. But there's,
So
there's
yeah,
something there.
So
You've got a thought. You should keep it.
I'm interested to see where it goes. Again, hopefully I get it working. I would like to play it. Otherwise, I'll be watching it, and we'll see how it continues on. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So for me, I. Oh wait, no, Preston, did you go?
Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Yes, Preston went.
Yeah.
Preston, yeah.
For me, it's honestly for me. I have a huge wave of nostalgia hitting me when I was playing this game. So I've only played through Metal Gear Solid 4 once, mostly because it's a fucking commitment when you play through this game. But there was like when I had the PS3, I did not get a PS3 when it came out for obvious reasons. None of us were
None of us, I don't think, got
born
one.
to oil baron families
We ain't no nepo baby.
that had money that would be able to afford one at the time. So I got it afterwards. But I managed to dodge at the time any spoilers about the game. I didn't want to know anything about it. I wanted to go in blind, so I managed to do that. So I remember getting it and playing through it, and there is, like just from every angle of this game, there's little things that were just them trying to leverage the PS3 in a way that had not been leveraged at the time, to just, like I said, to try to be like, look, this is our fucking, we're this the big exclusive that means you gotta own this motherfucking thing. There's little things like when you fucking, you open the menu, right, and when you get to the Drebin part, it reaches out to the servers. It doesn't do this anymore, but back then it would reach out to the servers and pull across like the deal of the day for Drebin, depending on the day of the week it was, and was like, hey, we're running a sale on this, and it would always change depending on what was going on, and reach out to do that stuff, and little things like that. So there's just little things when I was playing through the PS3 version of this game that is just like fucking takes me way back to just being in my room back then and playing through that stuff. That
I mean, the licensing, the licensing of actually having like a Playboy magazine instead of the magazine, or having iPod and like iTunes music for the iPod, like and all of Drebin's stuff is branded like Apple computers and Apple monitors.
Yeah.
So like the licensing is everywhere in this game.
Yeah, and it's wild because it was just back then, like, it started at the tail end of the PS2 era and then just got bigger during the PS3 era. But like, licensing back then, because nobody really cared about video games in a way that they thought they would ever make that money, that it was always so cheap. So things like Guitar Hero could exist because, the record company that owns all those songs, like, whatever, fuck it. Just pay for this, make your little thing. Thanks for the check. We're out of here. And then they would go on to make $1 billion from that. Well, similarly here, like, I know the licensing did not cost that much back then to get the iPod and all this other stuff in. Part of the reason why I think, outside of unfucking it from the PS3, I think the other part of it is that why it's taking so long to make is that they have to probably go through and change all that stuff, because video games are big enough now that I think somebody at Apple would come to Konami when they're trying to remake this game and be like, you want to use what in this game? Yeah, we're going to need a nice chunk of change. And Konami, especially today, is not in a position to be able to fork over whatever that cash is. And so they're probably going through and being like, changing every instance of the word iPod to music player, or, like whatever the fuck. So yeah, it's just a moment in time. And I think that when you are playing, it's all over that game in a way that the other games aren't, right? Like that don't have that. Yeah, so far it's just hitting me with all the memories of when I played through the game for the first time, but that's about it. Also, I like seeing all the characters from PS1 realized in a new way. It's cool seeing like. Also, the last thing that I'll say about I think the end of Act 1 is so good, even though I think that the rest of Act 1 is like, fine, it's just the intro. Every performance that is done by the voice actor of Revolver Ocelot continues to be just incredible. Like, I think he is such a good voice actor. And anytime I see, like, but the greatest piece of his performance, I think, is he does not act like Ocelot anymore. He acts like Liquid, but he's doing it in Ocelot's voice, because it's like what was the Tropic Thunder, the Ayama dude playing another dude who's disguised as another dude or whatever. Like, it's like that kind of thing where he's like, it's Ocelot's body, but Liquid's inside it, so he has to, like, when you hear him, like, Ocelot would never say, like, like, brother, and like point at him, whatever. Liquid would do that, but you can hear but you can like hear Liquid saying it, even though it's Ocelot coming out. I think it's great. Is basically, I just love that performance, because it's such dumb anime bullshit too, that it's Liquid's arm that's basically puppeting Ocelot's body at this point. Yeah, I think it's great. So, but yeah. So there we go. We're gonna get through Act 2 this next time, and then we'll be back to go from there.
All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. I know it was a long one this time. But like Christian said, we'll be back with Part 2 Act 2 next week, as we continue on with Metal Gear Solid 4. Guns of the Patriots. Sons of
Correct.
Guns of the Patriots. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Preston, you know what to do.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Testing Room. To catch up on past episodes or to check out the newest ones when they drop, Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcast. If watching is more your thing, check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@thetestingroom, or watch us live on twitch.tv/testingroomlive. To leave comments or ask questions, you can follow us on Instagram @testingroompod, leave a comment on YouTube, or send them in to testingroompod@gmail.com. See you next time.